Chapter 2, Production Possibilities. We're now going to see if the United States and Japan should trade with one another. So on your practice problem set, you should have a US graph, which shows that the US can make 5,000 tons of wheat or 500 computers or a combination of the both of them. Now, before we decide whether we should trade, we need to figure out how much wheat and computers US consumers are expecting. I just picked this random point. Point A here is going to represent 50-50 split. So if we're not going to trade with Japan and the US is going to make their own wheat and computers, we're going to make 2,500 tons of wheat and 250 computers. That is how much they're going to produce for the market. And that also represents what consumers are expecting. So if we're going to go into a trade with Japan, the US would have to have more than 2,500 and 250 in order for it to be advantageous for them. So in this particular situation, I'm just picking this particular point to be kind of the starting point for this example. So your Japan graph shows 1,200 tons of wheat max or 240 computers max. I'm going to pick the same point for Japan. If Japan is not going to trade with the United States and they're going to make their own wheat and computers, we'll give them a 50-50 split as well, which means at point A, they're producing 600 wheat and 120 computers. So if Japan is going to trade with us, they would have to make or get more than 600 wheat and more than 120 computers, because that's what consumers in Japan are expecting to purchase. So in order for this trade to be advantageous for Japan, they need to get more than 600, 120. Now, with these two values, is it possible for the United States and Japan to have enough wheat and computers that they could trade and both end up with more? That's the question. So without trade, remember the US needs 250 computers or 2,500 tons of wheat. Japan needs 120 and 600. I want you to think about this and write down your answers. Can these two countries trade? Are there enough resources so that they can both end up with more wheat and more computers than they could make on their own? Remember, a trade doesn't occur unless both countries will benefit from what they're currently making. So both countries would have to agree to this trade for it to happen.